So this is love. What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. No more. Those are two pretty cool songs. Maybe two of the greatest songs ever created. Hi there, I'm Loaded Buggy, and today we're going to be talking about Love. This is something that everyone desires, everyone craves in some form or fashion. And I have been fortunate to be in a relationship with my wonderful bride. We've been married for 6 years, together for 8, and it's been some of the greatest years of my life. I would say the greatest years of my life. And I want to talk about how I identified that true feeling of love, how I identified that she was the one, and what do you do after? So, identifying the different kinds of love. I think it's important to know that there are obvious distinctions, and love can come in very different shapes, sizes, colors, whatever. There's the kind of love that you share for a stranger, the kind of love for just people. I think we should all have a love for people, a desire to treat people nice, treat people with kindness, with care and gratitude. And I think it's just kind of a general love for existence, for human life. It's the stranger love, is what I call it. And there's the love that you have for your family. When you look at your mom and you think, that's the incredible woman that raised me. Or that's the father that showed me how to throw a ball. I've seen that in movies or something. I don't know. But we all know the love that you have for your family. It's the same kind of love that you have with your closest friends. And these two types of love are very common in us all, but they're very different from the type of love we're talking about today, which is the romantic love. And this is, I believe, the kind of love that we all crave the most. It's the kind of love that is a search for companionship. It's a search for a acceptance of self and someone who loves you for who and what you are unconditionally. It's the unconditional kind of love. And I think that is something that we all crave, again, in some way, shape, or size. But how do we know that it's real love? I think often we fall into this trap, especially early in our relationships, where we see someone who's just gorgeous, or someone that's just a very handsome man, or beautiful woman, whatever it is, and we get distracted, so distracted by appearance, and we get in this little trap of lust. So how do we know that something is just lust? Or how do we know that it's really stemmed into something that's love? I think there's an obvious answer to this question, and lust is purely sexual, whereas love is something that you feel in, like, your spirit. It's something that when you look at some person, you're not just thinking about the types of adult acts you would like to do with them, but rather how much you admire the person that they are, how much you would be absolutely crushed if they were no longer in your life. Love is in the heart, whereas lust is in your pants. I guess, right? I think that's a fair assessment. It's pretty simplistic, but I think it's a fair assessment. I think often we kind of watch these Hollywood movies, and they always talk about the butterflies. You get the butterflies in your stomach, and that's how you know you've really latched on to this person. That's how you know it's love is blooming. And I don't think that's necessarily true, because that can be a confusing feeling, because sometimes the butterflies are just nerves, and not all nerves come from a real interest in love. It can also stem from lust too. Whenever you are so extremely attracted to somebody and you have such a physical attraction to them, it can be uncomfortable and nerve-wracking to just be around them. So this feeling can kind of be a confusing feeling, and you kind of have to evaluate what your motives are. Are you getting these butterflies because of the personality in addition to the person's appearance. It's okay to be absurdly attracted to somebody. That's fine. I'm absurdly attracted to my wife, and I think she gets more beautiful genuinely every single year. I find myself becoming more attracted to my wife every single year. But there's something that's more deep than just our physical attraction, our physical connection. It goes much deeper than that. It stems into the mind, it stems into the spirit, it stems into the heart. It's, like, again, I can't live without this person. My life would be incomplete if this person wasn't here. That's what love feels like. Love is when a piece of you ceases to exist if that person were to be gone. And I think that is a crazy feeling. I think that's an absolutely bonkers feeling. I've never experienced that with any other person than my wife. You know, I've had some crushes along the way. I've had some flings along the way. But there's no one that's impacted me, had the staying power, than my wife. And I think I speak for anyone who's found a lifelong partner, that's the feeling that we feel. That's the feeling. A piece of me would cease to exist if you were no longer here. I think something that's also important to recognize is we often see in movies and talk about love at first sight. It's something that is such a common trope, if you will, that I saw this person and I knew that I was going to marry them. And sometimes that happens. I felt that way with my wife. I did. And I think that's a perfectly fair and reasonable assessment. But at the same time, it's just the start of the feeling of love. A great infatuation upon first encounter is just the beginning. Love grows over time. Those surface level feelings of love can happen immediately. But finding that deep-rooted connection where your minds are almost linked together, like the Geth in Mass Effect, where you are one person in two bodies. You don't get to that point just immediately. Love grows over time. And when you commit yourself to a person for the long term, you get the reward of feeling like you are two pieces of a puzzle that have been glued together. And I think that's an amazing thing. How love can kind of stew. It's like a crock pot. I think it's important to not get confused with love being an Instapot. Like an Instapot, you throw some roast beef in there, in an hour, boom, you got slow cooked and usually dry, but shredded beef. But if you do it in the slow cooker and you do it right, it takes 6 to 8 hours to get to that fall apart, melt in your mouth, moist texture. And that's what love is. Love is not the quick and dirty. Love is the slow and rewarding. It's worth the time investment, and it's important to remember that love grows over time. I shouldn't say always, but I frequently bring up the fact that I am a Christian, a follower of Jesus Christ in my videos. I'm not shy about stating that fact. And although I don't pressure people or try to preach too much in my videos, I think there is many things you can learn from the Bible that can apply to life whether you believe in Jesus Christ or not. And there is a verse that says, love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, and it does not boast. Those are the four qualities of love that defines it perfectly, to know that you've made it and you know how to sustain it. I've already talked about how love grows over time, and that covers the first one. Love is patient. Love is also kindness. Love is being kind. Love is choosing kindness. You can have a bad day, and I get caught in this loop all the time. I'm a person that's a rather emotional person, and if I've had a bad day, sometimes my mouth moves faster than my brain, and I end up having to apologize to my wife for, being a little bit short or snippy, whatever it is. And love is not that. Love is choosing to be kind even when you're not at your best. Love is not being envious just in general. It does not envy. You do not look at another person's wife and wish you were with them. That's not love. You can't be with somebody and desire to be with somebody else and sustain your long-term relationship. There's just no way. It has to be a full devotion, a full, unequivocal, single-minded, forever devotion to one person without envy, with complete trust. That's how you sustain it. Another thing that I learned rather quickly is we all, as humans, have walls. We love to build walls. Hey, shout out Trump. I don't know why I said that. We all have walls emotionally, and love is learning to let your walls fall, to let down your guard. And when you've reached that point, whenever you've finally allowed yourself to let go of those things and put your guard down, you start to feel safe with that person. You start to feel like you can actually be yourself. You start to feel free. You no longer feel like you have to put on your best show, your best version of yourself. You can start to let loose. You can just be yourself openly and freely. That's love. That's acceptance. And that's a beautiful thing. And I think one of the things that I'm so glad that I found the love of my life early. I got married at 22, and I could make a video about my experience of getting married and having children early, but I have been tunnel visioned on this woman for nearly 10 years. We had a little bit of a fling early on in our relationship where I was kind of a rebound date, if you will, and I thought our relationship was going well, but she was kind of just hanging out with me to have a companion while she was recovering from her breakup, essentially. And I didn't see past that. I was kind of dense in that way. I was blinded by my infatuation by this person. And it wasn't until we kind of terminated our relationship at that time for me to realize that I need to hold myself to a little bit of a higher standard. And then time went on, and probably a year later, she grew massively, I grew massively, and she decided that she wanted to have a conversation with me, essentially. And it wasn't a "I want you back" conversation. It was an apology, and it was a message of regret that I wish I would have done things differently with you, and I wish I would have taken the chance with you back then. But it wasn't asking for me back. It wasn't an ultimatum. It wasn't anything like that. But in that moment, I had still had this infatuation and that thought in my mind that I'm going to marry this woman at that time. And I got tunnel vision. I was stuck on this woman for a year and a half up until that point when we weren't even dating. And I got stuck on this woman, and I'm still stuck on this woman. 8 years later of actually officially dating, after 8 years, that's the only woman I want to spend my time with. I think that's really what love is. If you can find someone that allows you to feel that way, where, we often hear the saying, "I've only got eyes for my girlfriend, I've only got eyes for my wife, I've only got eyes for one woman." When you actually feel, genuinely feel that way, it's a magical thing. And I could go on and gush about my wife all day long. So I'm going to stop here. But I think I'm in a really good place, and I hope if you all haven't experienced this type of love before, that you experience it soon. Thank you all for watching this video. If you enjoy this type of content, please click the like button down below, leave a comment down below, and share your stories or share your struggles. I'd love to hear from you. Bye now.